Hello and welcome to the third episode of the Road to Longboi. So in this video, or this episode, whatever you want to call it, we will take a look at the Warlords of Draenor's success, which was Garrisons, which everyone loved and nobody disliked at all. In all seriousness though, Garrisons was a good way to make gold, and even though the missions themselves and the followers have been nerfed, there are still some ways to make a lot of semi-passive gold on a daily or weekly basis by setting up the garrison on one or multiple characters. So in this video we will take a look at exactly that, and discuss what you can do to make gold with garrisons even in BFA. Okay, let's just get into it, shall we? Missions. There are several missions you can do, but focus on the missions that reward Garrison Supplies. Other missions worth doing is the Medallion of the Legion missions, Mount missions, Toys missions, Pet missions, and the missions for the Elixir of Growth. Also pick up the missions that reward you with the item to increase your follower item level, as those still sell well to people gearing up their own followers to do this exact strategy, or you can use it yourself if you're just starting out. Basically, I sell the medallions for about 8k each, the mounts for 3k each, battle pets for a couple hundred gold each, toys for a few hundred gold each, and the item to upgrade follower item level for about 1k gold. So I mentioned doing missions for Garrison Supplies, and while we're talking about Garrison Supplies, make sure you loot your Garrison Supply cache every 3 days to obtain the Garrison Supplies as well. For Garrison Supplies, you can set up your followers so you get plus 100% or plus 200% Garrison Supplies from the missions as well, which I would recommend you do. You can do this by having an inn and recruiting followers with specific traits, or you can reroll traits until you get the trait you want on the followers you have. So why is Garrison Supplies important? Well, because you have a vendor in your garrison that will sell you materials where you buy them with the supplies, and the amount of which the materials costs will rotate, so you will want to wait until they sell the material you need as cheap as possible before buying, at which point you will want to have as many garrison resources as possible to buy as much as possible. The big moneymakers here are usually fur, leather and fish, usually in that exact order, but I would recommend you do an auction house scan to find the best materials to buy on your server. When it comes to fur, it's used by tailors to make bags, and the leather is used to make drums and gliders. You can either sell these materials for raw gold or use them to make even more gold if you have the right professions and the right recipes, which in this case is the hexweave bag and the drums. Next up, let's look at some professions. Alchemy. This is probably the best moneymaker in my opinion because of the amounts of stuff you can sell. Having the alchemy hut is a must here so you can make work orders, and basically most of your money will come from selling flasks and potions to increase stats, as people still use them in BFA and a lot of people use it while leveling alts. Basically, even in BFA it's a good boost for a very cheap price. Flasks usually sell for 25 gold each and potions at 10 gold each. Other really good moneymakers from alchemy is the invisibility potion and the speed potion, as people use these on Mythic Plus, and they could also be useful in Shadowlands for that exact same reason. Speed potions are also used in big numbers for clearing old content to make it go faster, like transmog farming or mount farming in old dungeons and raids. Tailoring. This is a slow but steady gold making profession, and it's probably the first one most people think about when they think about making gold with garrisons. Basically, the way tailoring works is you make hexweave bags and you sell them. Use the work orders and daily crafts to make as much hexweave as possible, and then turn it into bags. On my server, each bag goes for 1000 gold each, and you can make in between 3 and 5 per week with work orders and daily crafts, plus some accelerated crafts with spirits as well, if you choose to do those as well. Leatherworking. Drums and gliders. Drums still sell in huge numbers and will be a good moneymaker until Shadowlands. However, with the drums nerf it will make less gold in Shadowlands, but since this is a Road to Longboi before Shadowlands series, that does not matter. Goblin gliders are also good for gold making, and they could be worth selling at the launch of Shadowlands, as well for people looking to min-max their leveling experience in Shadowlands. We have seen Goblin gliders sell really well at the start of each expansion so far. Enchanting. The daily shard transmute is great to sell some weapon enchants, which is in higher demand than usual right now due to the amount of people leveling. Examples of enchants that are useful here is the Mark of the Shattered Hand enchant, which is very useful to enchant your heirlooms while leveling your alt characters. Engineering. Make scopes and sell to people looking to enchant their heirlooms, and make pets and toys whenever you can, and sell those on the auction house. They will sell eventually, it just might take some time. Then let's look at some other ways of making gold with the garrisons. First of all, you have the barn, which you need rank 3, and it's super helpful to obtain both fur and leather needed for tailoring or leatherworking, which we just mentioned were great professions for gold making. You'll want to have your barn at rank 3 for the big boy traps, then go out there and trap some animals and place your work orders. From this you will obtain fur, leather and savage blood. The savage bloods you can turn in at the trading station for a bag of gold containing roughly 50 gold per savage blood. Make sure that the follower you have assigned to the barn has the skinning trait, which you can either get by recruiting a follower with that trait at the inn building, or by obtaining Goldmane the Skinner. A quick Wowhead search on Guide to the Garrison Barn should tell you everything you need to know. If you want extensive information on the subject, Wowhead has similar guides to every single building if there's anything you need explained further. Herbalism Garden is great to obtain the herbs you need to craft the specific flasks with alchemy, as well as the fact that it gives you the fly traps you need for tailoring crafts, and extra herbs which you can mill if you have inscription. Basically, it's a great resource and it takes 1 minute to grab every single flower. The mine is great to obtain some extra ore, but it's really not the best gold, but if you're gonna be at your garrison anyway, why not just take a trip down the mine as well? Scribe's Quarter is useful for the Cards of Omen / blood cards, and the partial receipt / merchant orders. You will need level 2 in order to have a follower work in there and produce the receipts. On the subject of herbs, frostweed is used by alchemists to produce the alchemist catalyst, and the fly traps are used by tailors to craft the daily secrets of Draenor tailoring. If you don't have a use for those, they should still sell decently on the auction house. The other 4 remaining Warlords of Draenor herbs, I would recommend milling for the pigments. Basically, use the Scribe's Quarter to produce the Cards of Omen and blood cards, and if you have inscription you can make war paints and even more Cards of Omen or blood cards. You can also make gold with the shipyard by sending out missions to obtain the primal spirits needed for the extra daily crafts, where you spend spirits plus materials to prevent the daily cooldown, if that makes sense. And you can send out shipyard missions to obtain buckets of oil to sell as well as certain pets you might be able to sell. A fun side note here is that if you haven't done the shipyard yet, you can also get a heirloom ring from it, so that's an extra reason to do it. So as you can see, there are lots of ways you can still make gold from a garrison from Warlords of Draenor, even though it's 3 expansions old. The good thing about this is that it takes very little time and you can set up multiple characters and customize your garrison to suit your professions, and the gold you'll make per day or per week will just skyrocket according to how many characters you have. Even if you don't want to do all the professions and garrison building stuff, even just sending out the weekly missions will obtain you a nice chunk of gold, especially when you get that Medallion of the Legion mission proc, but the other mission rewards items still sell pretty well as well. Basically, the bare minimum you'll get, unless you get a toy, is 1k gold per week, from something that takes less than a minute to do. So if you have 10 alts, that's 10k per week, and if you get 10 medallions missions, that's 80,000 gold per week, maybe even more, from a couple of minutes of work. But believe me, you will never get 10 medallions missions in 1 week, unless you have 50 characters you do this on. There it is, the 3rd episode of the Road to Longboi. I wanted to spice things up this time and take a look at something outside of BFA, and that is probably how I'll keep it for the next few videos as well, to show you how you can make gold in BFA even if you don't want to do BFA content. Once again, I do hope this video helps you make some gold, and I really do hope it helps some of you obtain that Longboi. A massive thanks to all of my patrons for the support over there, you guys are absolutely amazing, and I appreciate every single one of you. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment on what you want me to cover in the next episode of the Road to Longboi, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.